Well, this game right here, Foundation, is probably one of the greatest city builders I've ever played, and it's really, truly an outstanding achievement from a game that has been in development for over 6 years, now finally out in 1.0. Now, you probably already know that Foundation is an amazing game. We featured it many times here on the channel, and I always reference it whenever we're playing games like Manor Lords or even Austria and many other city builders that are either prehistoric or pre-electricity or pre-industrial revolution. Foundation is such a fluid and organic game, it is mind-blowing, and there's a lot of things within Foundation that I absolutely want to and need to see in Manor Lords. Now, Manor Lords, that game is quite far away from its 1.0 release, but Foundation, in its 6 years of development, has made a lot of great strides towards being what it is now. And you're probably here to learn about some of the tips and tricks that I've learned over my 6 years of playing this game, and also some tips and tricks that I've learned by playing the game recently in its 1.0 release. It's amazing, and I couldn't recommend it enough. If I was to say, well, should you get Manor Lords or Foundation? My answer is both, because Foundation has some amazing things that Manor Lords absolutely needs for building buildings out of different types of modular pieces, and an insane, I'm telling you guys, it's amazing the different parts and pieces for all the buildings in this game, from your Manor Lord, or your manor, your well, lords as in, like, you know, the church, and or the monastery, and the castle too. Manor Lords needs to have some of these things, and I want other city builders to have it too. So I wanted to share with you all my ideas on getting started, some things I wish I knew at the beginning, and continue to open the door to answering all of your questions down below in the comments section. So this is going to be a scatterbrained take on, hey, here's this, here's that. It's not going to be a top 10 tips or whatever. I might come up with 10, but certainly it's a great video to watch all the way through. So definitely do that, and let me know all the things that you know down below, things that you might be wondering and want to ask down below, and some things that you'd like to see in the future. All right, let's go ahead and jump in. And by the way, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. Let's go. Alright, so I may cover some things that we've covered before in previous videos, so definitely make sure you go back and watch some of the other ones on Manor Lords, both in getting started and really breaking down the whole take of this game. But I wanted to, first of all, just rizz up this amazing, yes, I know, for real, no cap, this is absolutely an amazing map editor. This map generator is outstanding, and I want to see games like City Skylines and whatnot have it. One of the best things about this is whenever you make a map, you can go into the map and come back here if you're not happy with it, and it'll pretty much save exactly where you left off. So if we make the map like this, and we come back here and we don't necessarily like it, make some changes, we can continue to go back and re-roll the map continuously and see what it's like in the game. So keep in mind, whether or not you're playing on the coastal map, the river map, or the map with hills, you can come back anytime to make changes to it and continue to tweak it. So use the whole getting started, you know, like jumping into the game, like jumping in past these rules and stuff, just quickly click past all this stuff just to see what the map is like, and then if you like it, come back here and truly set it up. So just use this as kind of a like mini map of what it'll look like, and then go in and you know, make sure it's perfect. And honestly, I have to recommend you guys to continuously re-roll these maps until you're in love with it. Don't pick a map because you're satisfied or happy. You should just be like, whoa, I need to build here. And that's certainly how I feel about certain maps in other games as well, and Manor Lords included there. There's absolutely perfect spots to build your manor or your castle or your monastery. So don't be satisfied by just looking here at the contours and whatnot, because this could just be a very little bump in the map. So you definitely should go in and you know, get it until you got it perfect. So keep in mind also that all of these maps have different options as well. So just because you're on the hills map that has like 4 options, the river map has a few more that adds more options to, like, the cliff sides and the islands that could be within the river, and also the option to maybe make some lakes that are very either close to that river and or connect to it directly. So yeah, and even the coastal map has some things like the slope that go down to the coastline, and or the ability to remove islands, for example, or add more if you want to, and remove rivers and things that might be appearing as well. So lots of cool options here. Keep that in mind. Alright, here we are in a pretty map that I just generated with 2 really nice looking bays here. What I really like about this map too is that it has a like peninsula in the middle with some elevated terrain, and this is perfect for a castle or manor or like our government sector, and it'll kind of be isolated from everything else. So that'll look cool. Now, another thing that I have to make mention of is these large pillars here. These are where we'll get minerals in the game. This is where we could find gold or iron and other things that we can use to mine. And so later in the game, we can get our bailiff to go and find out what's here, and this will help us to plan out where to expand in the future. So it might be a good idea. It really doesn't matter where you start, honestly, but just to kind of creep your territory closer and closer to these later on. This will definitely help you to know if you want to go into weapon making or whatnot, or maybe jewelry making, that one or the other of these, or maybe both of them, will be good. And each one of these indicates that's exactly where iron is going to be. Now, there's also iron that you can get on the ground too. Let's see if we can find a deposit here. This is for stone, but there's also one that is for iron as well. So keep in mind that if you find a little deposit like that, yeah, you can mine from this too. Now, another thing that I found out recently that blew my mind, and I don't think we have it unlocked at the moment because I haven't put down my village center, is that the charcoal burners actually cut down trees on their own in addition to the lumberjacks doing that. I thought that the charcoal burners would actually pull from that storage. So all these trees that we see here, we should probably consider making some of these areas that we're going to regrow in order to constantly make a renewable, like, forester area. So these could be used for, I wouldn't recommend using these for hunting, only designating an area for hunting later on in the game. And these are kind of some more advanced tips. You got to know what I'm talking about. But basically, if you were to do some hunting for boar, leave that area alone. Don't mix an area for charcoal makers, for loggers, and also for hunting. It's just going to kind of make a mess. It might be a good idea to separate all those areas and keep the charcoal burner, for example, closer to where your minerals could be. So, for example, we could turn this whole area into a forest and have the charcoal burners nearby so they don't have to transport that stuff very, very far. Now, when you're getting started in the game, rolling it all the way back to the very beginning, honestly, I don't know if it really matters where you start, so long as you know where you want to expand into. And it is pretty well recommended that you certainly have a lot of territory inland. Unfortunately, we get all these areas out here where it's like tons of water, and so there's really no value to settling here other than having fish out in the shoreline. So I always like to settle inland a little bit and then expand out to the shore and then get fish a little bit later, because the first important thing is berries. And I think it's also a good idea to go somewhere where there's a little bit more opening, so that way we can have some of this area clear for a initial village. And I think maybe over here might be a good spot, right behind where we're going to build the castle. So, yeah, that's something you're probably going to want to do, is build your manor a little bit further outside of town, so that way you can keep all of your town together. You don't have to do this. You can certainly do, one of my favorite photos on the Steam store page is to build a walled city and to have, like, the manor right in the middle of that, all the little houses outside, and then, you know, like a giant wall around that. So that's going to take several expansions, though, and something that we're going to end up deleting later. Let's go ahead and purchase this territory here, and then I'm going to go ahead and let you know that, remember, your village center is where villagers will come to, but you can move this later. So this plops down and is immediately, like, spawned in, and there's a few buildings that will spawn without you having to build them. The village center is one of them, and that's, again, where immigrants will travel to basically be accepted into your town. So right now, boom, insta build, and there we are, Fjordheim. And then all the people spawn here, so that's pretty cool. Now, you can also build your initial village out on an island and connect back to the mainland, but just remember that if anybody tries to come to your city, they have to come in from off the map. This is kind of something we knew from the beginning, but the game will randomly assign, like, a spawn point where people will come into your village, traders and immigrants and whatnot, and then it'll make a path all the way to the village center. But if you're out on an island, they can't get to that until you build a bridge. So just keep that in mind too. Now, if any time you want to move your little village center, you can click on the edit building thing here, and then you can move that at any time. It'll just take gold to do that. It'll cost 1. A lot of things are pretty much free to move, like this one's included. It just costs like 1 extra coin. So if later in the game you're not happy with where the village center is and you built a huge market and you want to get the village center out of the way, you can put that pretty much anywhere in any of the territory that you own. Another pro tip is that you can buy more territory right off the start, and it doesn't cost you anything. So just like we did here, we started with 1 territory. We can then immediately increase that to 2. And then after that, it's going to start costing you. It'll cost you 100 gold and then 5 extra gold per month. But if you're not happy with where you settled, you can always sell an area, abandon territory to decrease upkeep. So you can basically just undo that and cancel the fact that you just bought that, or buy it again. So if you're not happy with this one on the right, you can go with the one on the left and get the one with the more trees. And that you can just continue to do that over and over again, and that's kind of nice. So just keep that in mind. You can continuously sell and buy territory. But wait a minute, what the hell? Did you see that? That's costing us 100 gold each time. Ah, yeah. Okay. So just remember that. The first one is free, but anytime you expand after that, it's going to cost you if you abandon. So just keep that in mind. That's another thing to consider. So it will cost you after the first 2. The first one's free, the second one is free, or your first expansion is free. Then after that, it's going to cost you some money. It's a good thing to note. Cool. All right, so we're not going to play this map too much, but I just wanted you to know some of the basics of plop down that village center, know you can move it, keep it maybe somewhere in the middle, build your marketplace here, all your homes and stuff around that. It's a really good idea to keep that near the middle, because that'll give you some maybe opportunity to build a market for beautification, your market, and then a bunch of decorations around it. And then, yeah, you can then expand into those other territories that you've done. All right, we're going to jump into another city that I've already previously built called Raptoria, and we'll jump back and forth a little bit. Scatterbrain. I know it's going to be Scatterbrain, but I'm really excited to share more tips with you guys that I've been learning as I've been going on, and some things that I've forgotten, especially at the start, like that. If you have any other tips at the very start of the game for players, let us know right now down below in the comment section. Just say for the beginning or at the start, and then give some of your recommendations. That's a good thing to note too. Oh, also another thing just to mention now, I just thought, yeah, your farms, whenever you go to make your farms, all land is fertile in this game for all types of farming, except for if it's in the forest. So it'll turn red if you're close to the forest. So just keep in mind, if you're going to make a pasture, if you're going to make a cattle farm for cheese, or if you're going to make a wheat farm, it has to be out here, like in the yeah, the beautiful landscape. It's a gorgeous game. It really is. Check that out. Really nice looking. All right, let's get back to our other city. Let's go. Sweet home. Proud to be back here. Now, you may have seen another tips and tricks video that I put out on this city, and it's been growing. This is basically at the end of our 4th part of a like 3-hour live stream. So we're about 12 hours in now, part 4 of that. And yeah, we got a lot of trade going. A lot of cool things are happening, and I just love the look of this village and this game in general. And I wanted to share some more tips that I have kind of discovered through remembering that and people suggesting some things while we're live, and also, of course, from some of your comments later on. Built a new church over here, and some of the things in this church, you can see it's off a little bit. Oh, no, tragic. But don't worry, we can redesign it. One thing I must confirm with you all is that, unfortunately, at the moment, we cannot save blueprints. And that would be such an amazing thing in this game, to be able to take a church or a building that you were proud of and copy it to another city. So hopefully that's something they consider in the future. Yeah, so you have to build everything from scratch each and every time. Maybe that's something the developers want. But keep in mind that you can make a building like this, for example, hold 75 people for weekly attendance. Look at how small that little footprint is. And I wanted to build maybe like a little graveyard or something on the side and increase the size of the church grounds. But you can see how that holds 75 people. And this here holds 159. And I've like made a lot of splendor here by making all these extra decorations. And one thing you can actually do here in this game is you can continue to increase the capacity of a building without having to change its blueprint. I've done that several times for a challenge, but one thing that we've done is, or what we could do, is actually build a structure continuously on top of each other multiple times. So here, it's using this rustic church piece, one of the larger pieces, for the large main section of the church, and we could continue to order the game to build that again and again and again and again and again. And you can continuously add to a church like that until it's basically like higher capacity. So right now it's at 159. As soon as they finish the construction of the duplicate pieces that I put in there, it should increase by how many pieces, let's see, people can be in each of those pieces. So that increases it by 33. So I think I clicked, what, 4 or 5 times there? So that'll increase it by almost 100 or more people that can fit in that church. So if you want to cheese it, and if you don't want to change your design, you can fit those inside of each other or on top of each other multiple times. They'll have to still build that each and every time. But if you build a church you're really happy with, or a like a manor or something like that, yeah, you can definitely do that. So your initial church, if you wanted to increase its capacity before building a larger stone church, you can definitely do that. And certainly take some real-world designs into account, too. This was kind of, I don't know. I kind of tried to make it look like a crucifix, and then I've added these little sections onto it that kind of, I don't know. They look good, but it's certainly not, like, perfectly realistic. But that's cool. Every one of your churches should look a little different and a little weird. Now, another thing that blew me away in this game is, look at this. This is our manor, and recently I unlocked a bunch of extra decorations to it, and I cannot believe, it's insane. There are like 4 different levels of unlocks for buildings in this game. There's like the initial manor, then there's like a more like prestigious looking manor where the foundation at the bottom is kind of more stone and higher up. And then there's even more decorations like these window pieces here. I think they're called dormers, or I don't know, whatever. Those of you who play The Sims probably know this, but my God, I cannot believe how much stuff we've been able to add, and this has been incredibly important because what is really going to be prevalent and just like the top priority later in the game is under the progression tab, especially for the labor. Our splendor here is something that unlocks later tiers in the game. Here you see 150, here you see 300. So more complicated structures and building will unlock more splendor. So this unlocks new things that we can then buy with influence. So, yeah, this is going to be the same for the clergy with the church. You know, the more complicated and more decorations that you use on a church or outside of a church, like, for example, building fountains, that's going to further unlock different things for you to get. And then completing mission objectives and goals and quests and things like that gives you more influence. You can also use the bailiff for that. But one thing that really can't stop you is the money. Like your prosperity here is determined by these factors here: wealth, territory, commerce, whatever. You'll get there eventually. But right now we're at, well, 200 is the maximum. So once you've essentially hit a certain population level and they're getting enough money coming in from taxes and whatnot, you can buy all these. These are just from currency. And another pro tip is to get your treasury up as soon as possible, as well as your tax office. So here on top of the manor house, I've made this section here the tax office, this little tower and extension to the house. And then behind that is our treasury. And each treasury piece, of course, increases that number too. So we want more and more money. I think you start with a 500 maximum, even if you don't have a treasury, and then all those pieces on top of that add to that. I believe the bailiff also could be used as a treasury building. If we look here under the manor, let me just quickly confirm that. The manor house does have a section for treasury, and then under the prosperity menu, yeah, your church can also get a treasury too with the monastery. The clergy unlocks that at the monastery. And then I think also the castle does too. So the treasury can be added on the bailiff's office under labor, and it looks like there is one under the kingdom too. So you could basically build a small treasury onto your your manor or tax office. You could add one to the monastery, and then you could add one to the castle as well when you go to build that. And that'll kind of be your military goal. Now, some of these goals are also, or these things are unlocked via like cash at the start, and then later on they require that influence. And again, remember, you can use the cash to convert that to, like right here it says influence the labor estate in your favor. So that'll cost us gold coins, and then that'll gain 10 influence. So essentially this is a currency exchange. So you pay just 25 gold coins, and then you can gain 10 influence with the labor estate. That takes the bailiff a little bit of time to do, but then we unlock more stuff through the labor tab. And that's going to be really important. Some of that stuff can really add more, like beautification, and then that could go towards something like clergy and kingdom later on through your common path goals. Like that could be something that right here, glassworking, could unlock stained glass windows for your clergy, and that could look really nice in your church. So that's another good thing to consider. There is an insane amount of stuff in this prosperity tab. So what you should definitely do is take a little bit of time to look at all these numbers up at the top that break down your population and other things like that. And then also all the things that you can unlock. Because some of the things here, like for example, clergy splendor package, that unlocks things like, I think eventually fountains and stuff could be in here too. And later on, it looks like that as well. Monk statues, golden crosses. So these are things you can put in your town that don't necessarily have to be at the church. They certainly look a little bit better there, like the gargoyles and stone crosses, but they don't have to just be at the church only. And there's other things here for the beautification that also could go to the church. So keep in mind that some of these things might be under Common Path, Labor Kingdom, or Clergy, but they can all mix together. So if you wanted to build like a city gate that is the looks like a manor or something like that, you could totally do that and then convert that into something like, for example, the watch post. So this looks like a manor building, and it's mostly like our police station, dungeon, bailiff's office, but I've mixed all those together. So there is nothing wrong with building multiple buildings separately and kind of far away from each other that all look the same. So they all kind of look like the bailiff's office. But remember, you can also paint the buildings afterwards. If you go to this edit tab, if you click on any of the structures here, you should be able to change the paint job of it, and it'll kind of separate it too. And then later on, you unlock different types of structures that look a little different at their base. So you could then rebuild your bailiff's office, and that would be really cool. So I'd like to do that. Wow. Look at that. Man, I'm so proud of that. Just looking at that looks just really nice. Now, another thing I may have mentioned in our last video, and something that I want to mention here, is that the farm fields are... Ooh, what the hell? Oh, that's our town patrol. Okay. Yeah, so the townspeople will walk right through your fields if you're not careful. So definitely build fences around all your farm fields. And also keep in mind that right when you build the farm, if you've unlocked some of the upgrades for it, you can also, right here, build a tooling shack that lets you build even larger farm fields. So more people can deal with a larger field, so you don't have to have as many little farms. Maybe you want to have the smaller ones, maybe that looks more realistic to you. But just keep in mind that these are very powerful things that you can do for all of your camps and your other industries, especially for raw resources. So if you add a little decoration here and there, it increases the amount of people that can work there. So we went from 3 to 6 here at just one of these little camps, and they really look great. And then, of course, they're cutting down all the trees there. So not every industry gets that, but it's certainly something that, 1, looks good, 2, allows you to add more people in a smaller space, and 3, because it adds all those people, then you don't have to build multiple of these, and you can kind of keep an industry smaller and dedicate space to other things like that. So it's a really cool thing. Now, I mentioned this in our previous video, and I just wanted to go over it again because it's really important. Some of you may have missed it. The patrolling thing and the watchtower thing is really new for people, and a lot of people are continuously asking me what that means or how that works. And there's other ways to do it. You could do it via these 2 tabs here, the 2 initial things, which are the village watchtower and village fortifications. You could basically build a town wall around your city, and that'll count as fortification. And also you could build a village watchtower, which counts as fortification, but you also need to have patrols. So there needs to be people visibly in the streets walking around, like this group here, that are basically looking for trouble and making sure that they show a presence in the town to everybody, that there is law and order here and that there is no special victims unit. No, what I mean is that there's no crime here. So these people every once in a while need to see a patrol pass by. So think of like a bucket of water. Imagine each of these patrols adding water to these houses. That's not what they do, but it's just an analogy. These little circles here, these green circles, are ticking down and emptying every so often. And when the patrol comes by, then it fills right back up again. So if the need is not met, the house may downgrade. And this is something that you can paint here. You can see the absolute complexity of these things, but just pay attention to the purple stuff for now. You just got to paint all these houses to order a patrol to go by there. But in addition to that, you also need to have a watchtower aimed at those folks. And there's different levels of fortification too. There's more that you can unlock. So you'll need both. You will need a watchtower and you will need a patrol. And also, some of your industries require a watchtower too. Like, for example, our gold smelters here, those are a prime target for theft. So they do need to have a watchtower on them in order to work. And there doesn't always need to be somebody on guard. But as you can see, that guard is leaving now. But it will still count no matter what. And it's a good idea to build multiple small little like police departments or whatnot. And have all the patrols in different areas of the town. So good idea to build one, maybe, one on the two on the outside of your town, like one on one side, one on the other, and then maybe one right in the middle. And that's kind of what we've done here. We've got one here by all these farms. We've got one that's kind of in the middle of the town around the church, and then we've got one down here for all the buildings down by the beach. And yeah, this takes up a lot of manpower, but you don't really need to do anything super crazy for that. So just keep in mind that the towers themselves do provide some sort of watch as well, but it's kind of tricky to do. So the manor house here is actually a watch post. The type of building it is the manor, right? That's the art style of it, but it's a watch post. And that tower there, as well as same with the tax office, provides a little bit of watch too. If we kind of click on this, yeah, you can see the purple overlay. So if you build something around it, it will provide a little bit of watch. But I really think it's not that great, unfortunately. It's, you know, I guess it's nice, you know. But the taller you build the tower, it doesn't really seem to affect the range of it so much. So just keep in mind that, oh, wow, we hit population of 300. That's our first time. Congratulations to me. Yeah. So anyway, keep in mind, too, that these towers, I don't know if I can't confirm this or not, but maybe you can. These towers, if we build them high up, I don't see them having an extended range at all. Can anyone confirm that? If we build these towers up on the cliff, can they actually see further than if they're just on the ground? I think no matter what, they have the same range. But I would like to see it where if they're up high, they should be able to see way more over the city. So if I were to build like the, well, let's just say we built our little quote-unquote police station here, it should have like a huge area of effect around the city. And it should also, if we build the tower a little larger, be able to pretty much watch the whole town. That'd be a cool thing where, yeah, you pre-plan by building on a mountain. I don't think that's the case, but I'd like to see that updated to do something like that in the future. So another little pro tip there is that there's always a little extended bonus for building those buildings, but you're going to need to build a lot more than just that. Now, another thing I've got to stress to everybody, too, if you're getting started, is the amount of materials that you need is insane in this game. So certainly gather tons, and I'm talking like, you know, like 400 or 500 regular logs, 400 or 500 planks, 400 or 500 stone, and same with polished stone too. Although, you know, I don't need that stuff right now. That's pretty much how much I'm producing, and I can pull back on how much I'm exporting at the moment. When you get to the point where you're building large monuments like the castle and the monastery, you're going to need a lot of those materials. So just keep in mind that in this game, hundreds and hundreds of things are really not that much, especially when you're reaching a population like we are. Now, at the start, it's okay, but it's a good idea to double down on all those logging camps. And I do have a tutorial video that does appear on the Steam store page, too, for this one, and also is on the channel. And I'm trying to think of some old ideas that I think were really powerful and that everyone needs to know, and some things that I recently learned. So I'm trying to mix all those together. I think Foundation is just, again, one of the most creative city builders, and I love answering questions while we're live too. So make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification bell. And wait a minute, did you just skip to the middle of this video right here and you didn't watch all my tips and tricks before? You go right back to the beginning, mister. Yeah, you get right back to the start there, pal. So that way you don't miss out on anything, because we're going to need you. We're going to need you to pay attention and also ask or answer some questions too that you may have missed. So this is a good opportunity here to show off what's going on with these buildings. A lot of you have been asking what's going on with buildings downgrading. How do I keep them up? Or how do you upgrade a building? So there's three types of buildings in this game. There's serfs. Well, I guess there's, you know, three types of buildings that are also for three classes. There are serfs, which is at the bottom. There's commoners, which is in the middle. And you got your citizens, which is at the top. Now, your serfs are essentially your raw resource gatherers. These are the farmers, these are people doing mining, and this could even be, I think, some of the patrol people. Some things that require a little bit more skill, like, for example, the weaver and the tailor, I think require, let's just make sure before I misspeak on that. Well, let's just say the bakers. The bakers are better for commoners, and also the paver's yard is good for commoners as well. So what you can do is you can click to assign people here, and that'll always assign like the closest person wherever they live. You click on that person, and then you can also give them a promotion here. Otherwise, they work at an inefficiency. And I think you can see the efficiency right here. Yeah. So if you assign a bunch of people to, for example, a bakery, you definitely want to make sure you upgrade them so that way it can be at 100% efficiency. So right here we have somebody who's a serf. We need to get them up, so that way now it's 100%. There is another way to do this, too. You can do it through the bailiff and I think through the book as well. There's a couple of different ways, but just keep in mind that you should monitor that. And then you need to make sure that you match a serf a commoner and a citizen to whatever job that that may be. So right here, we got a couple more people moving in. People who move in always start as a serf, and then they'll move into these serf buildings. Now, there's also density in this game. So not only is there a building type for serf, commoner, and citizen, but then there's also density. So then you have like a medium and a high density, which you can kind of see here. And these are the things that are required for that. So first you have to, paint your residential area. Then it needs to be a desirable neighborhood. So basically not next to a sawmill or a mine. Add a couple of trees, and then add a commoner resident to it, and then the house can upgrade. And then they also might want to be a citizen. And then there's things that no matter what the house will want. So this is to get the different classes. You have your low quality housing, your medium quality, and your high quality, and then low density, medium density, and high. So there's 6 different things to consider. And then the last tier requires heavy fortification. So when we unlock that, it might be a higher level tower. And that's going to be cool to see a high level serf house. Now, we don't have to really build our town anymore. In fact, at this point, I went real sprawling, and the town's maybe even bigger than it has to be. You could definitely fit a ton of people in a very small area, but also I'm sprawling because I'm building houses near the actual resources. So you can see what the low tier, low quality housing looks like versus like the higher tier stuff. The mid tier stuff really looks nice. And same with some of these buildings here that we got going on. So we got, these larger buildings here. And these are like our commoner buildings. And then these are our larger serf buildings. So they all kind of mix together really nicely. So just keep that in mind when you're building, that you're going to need all those types of housing. You don't want to upgrade all the houses. There are jobs that will be required for that. So, you're going to want to always maintain all 3 types. But the density is important. More the merrier, especially if it's near an area that has a lot of that industry. So the farming houses don't really require too many people. The farms don't require too many people. And the farmhouses, too, give you like a few people. Actually, wow, that's crazy. These are only 2. So, yeah, in this small little neighborhood here, this is enough for like 1 or 2 farms, Actually, probably all these farms. And then if you unassign and reassign these people, it will make them, from the job itself, it'll make them pick the people who are the closest. Now, anybody who's watching, if you can confirm if people who live further away, if there's some sort of inefficiency for that, is distance a factor? I've only seen it be a factor from delivering to a warehouse, like for example the city market here, which is a great building that allows you to store and actually like build another more permanent market, like a building that's a warehouse above and then the marketplace below, and that can kind of store and like distribute things. But yeah, that's a great building. But anyway, I've only seen it seem to take time to deliver and pick up things from the granary and from all the mills and things like that too. And this is another thing I want to make mention of as well. Look at the insane amount of farms that I have here. I think we have maybe almost 10 farms, and this is just for making flour for bread. But we're going to need more wheat for when we make beer. We're also going to need hops too, and there's lots of different things to farm in this game. But everybody's still trying to figure out the perfect mill ratio. So right now I've got 2 mills, that's it, in this town that are making wheat into flour all year long. There is a cycle for this. There's no seasons in the game, but there are cycles for wheat being able to be planted, grow, and then be harvested. And the faster that you can do that, the better. These smaller farms actually might be more efficient because with more workers they can get it done quickly. Once it's all harvested, they start planting right away. And the ratio, which by the way you can find ratios here, and definitely everybody, pro mega tip, beginner tip, doesn't matter. Do read the description here on everything, because this is how I figured out, and somebody pointed out that the charcoal building is basically a cutter's building as well. So the bakery produces 5 bread in exchange for 3 flour and 1 water. So keep that in mind. And then that efficiency is also increased by them being the correct tier, which is commoner. And then you can see how much that can store. So the bakery itself can store 60 flour, 20 water, and then 50 bread until it's shipped out. And I always build like a little well out in front of the bakery. You can always have more than 1 well, so certainly do that. And then if we look at the mills themselves, the mills can hold 180 wheat. So I don't even think I'm making much more than like 300 flour. And then it's also getting stored over here at this granary on this side, and I'm thinking about making more. So we're storing up to like 200, I think, for wheat. but it's never enough to fully fill that thing up. So always remember that you can never have enough wheat, and that's confusing because I'm barely like storing a ton of it. As much as I'm making, none of it gets really stored for a long time, and I want to have tons at the mills. I want there to be tons in storage, and I also want there to be tons at the farm, so eventually I can build like 1 or 2 more mills. But it seems like 2 is enough for a population of 300. 2 bakeries, 2 mills, and then like 10 farms is enough for 300 people. Now, remember, food diversification is good in this game, and people will eat different types of food. If they're hungry, they'll go for fish, they'll go for your meat, they'll go for berries, that kind of thing. So they don't just eat one thing, they'll diversify. So if bread is low and you have a lot of berries, maybe they'll eat some berries. So our bread number is up because we have a lot of berries too, and we also have a lot of meat. So we got 200 meat, almost 200 berries, almost 150 bread, and it's just constantly coming in, which is concerning for me. I'd like to maybe shut down the bakeries for a while. Maybe that's the best way to store up a bunch of flour. So there is ways to make sure people eat other things like that. So another pro tip there, and yeah, and I'm still learning as I go, and especially for things that I've done in the past that I haven't done now, like sword warfare, bow warfare, and more military stuff. And that's exactly what we're going to work on, and I think that's what I'm going to do here. Is I'm going to play a couple of streams in the game, wait until people give me tips and tricks that they've heard elsewhere, that they've learned themselves, or that they remember from a video that I mentioned before, where it's like, hey, can you still do that? And be like, oh yeah, you're right. So this is definitely going to be a quote-unquote tutorial, quote-unquote tips series. That's just going to be all over the place. So certainly watch all of them, because as we're learning things and as we're remembering things as we go on, I can only share them with you after I remember them or after I learn them. So it's going to all be in a different order, and that's just fine with me. It's always cool to just remember things and learn things at any time and share it with all of you. And that's what's so fun about this game, is that really there's no right way to do things, but there are better ways and different ways and good-looking ways to do things too. So my biggest piece of advice to leave you with is that if this is your first time playing, or if you're a pro, remember your best city is always going to be the next one you build. Things that you're building now, landscapes that you're building in now or forming in the generator, and also your monument buildings that you're decorating and stuff, the next one you build is always going to be better. And your experience in this game doesn't matter. All the other games that you played matters more than this game. The Sims, right? Building houses in The Sims, playing Ostriv, playing Manor Lords, playing Anno 1800, all of that stuff is going to apply here. You probably played those games. Heck, some of you probably played this game way more than any other game. But I'm sure for most everybody watching, the games that you played before this one are going to absolutely apply here. So your decorating skills of putting down little trees and bushes and stuff like that is really, really important. One last thing, by the way, as I mentioned trees, and I still think this is cool, I don't want to mention this again, I cannot believe that when you put a tree close to a beautification area, it kind of expands its beauty. So there's like a multiplier for putting more and more trees and decorations next to each other. If you want to build a big park, it won't just have an area of effect in that area, it will actually spread, because it's such an epic park. And other games need to do that, like City Skylines, where if you put a bunch of smaller parks together, it should make like a big mega park that's going to have a huger, like big area of effect, and have different things that it could do, like baseball and people walking and, I don't know, maybe boats and stuff like that people want to row. I don't know. It should just be a park that everybody wants to go to, and that seems to be a thing here. So Foundation, you guys need to scream about this game from the highest mountaintops and tell more people about this series and about this channel and about this game, so more people can find it, because it's damn good, and you know it. It really is. And so, is it better than Manor Lords? It is. It is. In many ways, it is. It is a complete game. It is 1.0, but it's lacking some things some of you really want. Like, for example, it's got a lot of detail, but it doesn't have as much realism as Manor Lords, and it doesn't have the whole military combat. This game does have military. You can certainly build an army, but it doesn't have combat, and that's something I hope we could see in the future, and I thought we would see at 1.0, but there you go. All right, well, that's it. All right, folks, that's all for our additional tips and tricks on Foundation. I'm going to continue to learn more about this game as I play, get more feedback from you, and then I'm just going to regurgitate that. No, there's a better term for that. I'm going to spread the message, the good word that all of you give me for your own tips, your own tips, suggestions, and other things that you all come up with. So please, do let me know down below in the comment section all your questions. Everyone else feel welcome to answer them. I have my own questions. I hope you will help me to answer those in my video here, and then I could share that with everybody in the live streams and future videos too. Sound good? Great. All right, well, you all take care, and I'll see you all next time for more Foundation. Thanks for dropping by the channel. Thank you for subbing, and I'll see you all soon. Goodbye, everybody. Hold up. Emergency bonus tip time for those of you who watched this far. I was going to make this part of another video, but I just finished the stream and the chat told me some really cool stuff that I wanted to show to all of you. Now, this is something that was hidden in plain sight. If you right click on any of these resources or your coins, it'll tell you how many are stacked up wherever. So if you're wondering where all your stone is, you can right click there and you can see how much stone is in storage here at like the paver or in the storage warehouse here, or even the polishers. That's amazing. So the same applies to like gold, the same applies to like meat. You can see where it is in the markets or in the granaries or whatever. Now here's what's awesome for the coins for gold. Check that out. Now this is another mega ultra mega pro tip that I didn't even think about, and I played this like a million hours and maybe I forgot about this, but here's the deal. So it looks like each of your people in your city generate looks like 10 coin per person. So for example, here this house has a capacity of 60. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people are there. So each of those people will owe 10 coin to the government, to the tax office. So you can see here that there's a 23 out of 60 and that it needs to be gathered by a tax office. So for our tax office that's up here on the hill, you can see how much coin is not being collected by the tax office. Yeah, that's a lot of money that's sitting out there. Now, if it's a problem, I guess, if it's sitting here at the maximum, right? So because all of these houses here hold up to about 60 or maybe a little less than that, you can see that the tax office is definitely getting down here. But maybe not. Like there could only be maybe 20 tax here because there's only 2 people. Although I imagine that that would stack up. So it'd be, 20 and then 40 and then 60. So we would be in a big pickle if all these houses were sitting at like 60 plus gold and there wasn't enough here. Look at this one, 100 because there's 10 people. So per person, based on your density, that's how much tax money could be sitting there. So that's pretty amazing. So very helpful hint for those of you wondering, how should I set up my tax office? How many people should I hire? Just right click on the coin and it'll pop up, and the same for many of the other things in the game. Now, one final little thing I wanted to leave you with is I just saw our good friend Uthris playing this game to where, and this might be pretty cool for some of you, it looks like some of the, I'm just going to test this real quick. Hold on, let me check for the fences. Okay. So it looks like some of the towers can actually be put on the, check this out here, on the edges of the fence. So if you're trying to build a tower, it looks like, yes, it'll snap into all the fences here. So imagine if this were a large stone fence or like a fortified wall. So it looks like the game creates little nodules where you can put all your little towers and whatnot. So if you build a large palisade, it does seem to be possible to build like a little tower or something along the palisade, or like right here into the stone wall. So that's cool. So you can build that right into that, and it's kind of part of the fortification. So if you're doing a large city wall that goes beyond what we've built so far, like these smaller walls here, or the elegant walls that's over by the church, looks like you can build yourself a big old fortified wall. All right, I got to put this tip into all my other videos too, so I'm going to continue to mix these tips up and try to include things that we may have mentioned before for new people finding these videos or whatnot. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. You guys are great. All right, that was the Extendo Mega Ultra Bonus. Bye.